sample of variance. Xi, the first term Xi is represent the value in one observation. Value in one observation. If I have this element 13, 33, 45, 67, 70, it means that out of that, the first index element is been considered 13 minus X bar. Now X is represent the value of the one observation, then X bar is represent mean value for all observation. Mean value for all observation which we are already selected for a sample. अगर मैं मेरे पॉपुलेशन के अंदर या फिर मेरे डेटा सेट के अंदर 100 रिकॉर्ड है, आउट ऑफ दैट 100 रिकॉर्ड अगर मुझे एक लेट्स से 30-40 रिकॉर्ड्स पे वेरिएंस फाइंड आउट करना है फॉर सैंपल्स, तो मेरा एक्स बार क्या होगा, मीन वैल्यू फॉर दैट 40 रिकॉर्ड्स, नॉट फॉर ऑल द रिकॉर्ड्स. तो वो मीन किसका निकलेगा, फॉर 40 रिकॉर्ड्स, नॉट फॉर ऑल 100 रिकॉर्ड्स. ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड. तो एक्स बार होगा मीन ऑफ सैंपल्स विच इज वी हैव टू फाइंड आउट फॉर द variance. N minus 1, N is represent the number of observation. N minus 1 is for samples and N is for the population. We don't have any derivation of this formulas, so we don't need to worry about why it is N minus 1 and why it is N, because we are using that formula. We are not going to derive that formula. It is already been derived in mathematics, so we don't want to be derive that formulas in the data science. We have to use that formula. So Xi is one population value and X bar is represent the sample population mean value, and N minus 1 is the total number of observation minus 1. So this way we can find out the variance for sample. Now here again Xi is represent the value of the data set, current value. So again we can say it's a 13, 33 for one value, 13 value is considered. So one observation is considered in Xi. So it's a current observation that can be stored in an Xi. So it is similar for sample, it is similar for population. Minus mu bracket square. That mu is represent the mean value for all the population. तो जो भी मीन आएगा कंप्लीट पॉपुलेशन का, अगर मेरे पास लेट्स से जैसे मैंने एग्जांपल दिया था 100 रिकॉर्ड्स है और उसमें से अगर मैं 40 रिकॉर्ड्स पे वेरिएंस निकाल रहा हूँ, तो मेरा एक्स बार ऑफ 40 रिकॉर्ड्स का मीन, और जब मैं पॉपुलेशन पे यूज करूंगा तो मेरा होगा मीन वैल्यू, म्यू का वैल्यू होगा मीन ऑफ 100. जो भी मेरे पास पूरा डेटा सेट में रिकॉर्ड्स होंगे उनका जो मीन आएगा दैट विल रिप्रेजेंट एज अ म्यू, और उसमें से अगर कुछ रिकॉर्ड सिलेक्ट करके मैं कैलकुलेट कर रहा हूँ दैट इज रिप्रेजेंटेड एज अ एक्स बार. Make sure that म्यू इज रिप्रेजेंटेड फॉर अ होल पॉपुलेशन, एक्स बार is represented for the sample that we are selected from the population divided by n. N is nothing but the total number of records. So don't be confused in the mu and n. N is total number of record. N is 100 and mu is mean of that 100 record. So if my, or here we will take for example 1 2 3 4 5, यहाँ पे 5 रिकॉर्ड है एक डेटा सेट के अंदर. So population का साइज क्या हो गया 5. So value of n is 5. इसका मीन कैसे निकलेगा, इसका 13 plus 33 plus 45 plus 67 plus 70. It is nothing but the sum of all the terms divided by total terms. 5. Whatever the value I'll get, that is my mu. And for one record, we can find out the variance. Hope it is very much clear to everyone. If you have any doubt, you can ask. We'll move on for the next calculation, that is the standard deviation. ये थोड़ा सा image है इसलिए maybe it is not visible. I'll just read it out so that everyone can understand. Standard deviation. So two terms are important: variance and standard deviation. When I'm not using center of tendency in my data set, that time I'll definitely use variance and standard deviation. In a standard deviation, it is ahead of the variance. So how to find out the standard deviation? So when you find out the standard deviation, before that you have to find out the variance. जब भी आप स्टैंडर्ड डेविएशन निकालोगे किसी भी डेटा सेट का, तो उसके पहले आपको वेरिएंस निकालना ही होगा. इधर इट इज फॉर सैंपल, इधर इट इज फॉर पॉपुलेशन, जो कि हमने प्रीवियस स्लाइड में देखा. ये आपको करना है अगर स्टैंडर्ड डेविएशन मुझे निकालना है. तो यू कैन नॉट डायरेक्टली फाइंड आउट द स्टैंडर्ड डेविएशन. ऑफ द वेरिएंस is the standard deviation. So square root value of the variance is nothing but a standard deviation. It will give the value of your data set whether it is concentrated on the one side or it is scattered around the data set. So what are the
Sir, you are not audible.
हेलो?
Yes, sir.
हाँ, तो कहाँ पे था डिस्कशन? ये हो गया था ना, स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ डेविएशन.
No, sir, बीच में वॉइस चली गई थी.
Okay. So once we complete the variance, then we'll have to find out the standard deviation. Standard deviation will give you whether the data is concentrated on one end or not. So what are the data set we have, whether it has been associated on the left side, whether it is associated in the right hand side. So to find out that, we have to calculate the standard deviation. So a standard deviation is an under root of variance, is nothing but a standard deviation. So rho is equal to under root of rho square, which is a standard deviation, sorry, which is a variance. Square root of that variance is nothing but a standard deviation. It is been calculated for population as well as it has been calculated for the sample. So now we will take one example to understand how to calculate variance and how to calculate standard deviation. And everything is around the mean. So mean we have to calculate in each and every case. So these are the numbers, I think visible to all, I think 3, 5, 6, 9, 10. So first of all, I'll find out the mean value of that data set. So 3, 5 plus 6 plus 9 plus 10 divided by 5, I'll get the mean value. The mean value is 6.6. In the definition itself, it says that variance is around the mean. Around the mean means is nearest to the mean. So when we calculate the variance, now see the formula of variance and how we are calculate. Suppose these are the two formula. Either I am going for the population, either I am going for the sample. Here I am going for the population. So xi minus mu bracket square divided by n. So one by one for every data set record we have to find out the variance. So variance is equal to 3 is my first value minus mu. Mu is 6.6 bracket square plus, because it's a summation, plus second record is 5 minus 6.6 bracket square plus 6 minus 6.6 bracket square, and so on. Every record we have to consider in this case divided by total number of record. So this calculation we can perform. ये calculation आप आपके end पे करके देखो. You will get the answer 6.64, which is very nearest to the mean value. The mean value answer is 6.60, and now we'll get a variance which is closest to the mean value, which is 6.60. So only 0.4 difference is there in a mean and variance. So it is closely associated with the mean value, that is a variance. Or standard deviation will give a clear idea whether the record is associated in the left hand side or right hand side. So we can calculate the standard deviation, which is an under root of variance. So variance already we calculated. We have to just take the under root of that variance. You will get the standard deviation answer. So hope it is clear for everyone how to find out variance and a standard deviation. किसी को doubt है इसमें?
No, sir.
So you can take another example to find out the answer of the variance and standard deviation. You can try it at your end by using some data set and try to find out the answer. But make sure that these values are very close to each other in each and every case. It may have the random data, it may have the sequential data, it may have the concentrated data, or it is a distributed data. In each and every case, the mean and variance are closely associated with each other. Now next term is coefficient of variation. These different terms, right now we are just find out the answer of this simple data set. जैसे कि हमने यहाँ पे simple 5 records लिए और उसमें find out किया. But when we actually operate a large data set, that time these terms are important. But make sure that you know the formulas and how to substitute the values in the formula. As I said, the ready-made functions are there in programming language, so you don't need to calculate actual these values using calculator. By using function, we have to just pass the size of my data set and the records. Automatically, it will calculate variance, standard deviation. It's not a big deal for a programming language, but we need to understand how to calculate the variance and standard deviation and when to use that terms. वो हम आगे देखेंगे when to use. अभी हम देख रहे हैं कि कैसे यूज करना है उसको, और फिर कहाँ पे यूज करना है वो हम देखेंगे बाद. Now moving ahead for the coefficient of variation. It is again related to the variation. So variance is involved in the coefficient of variation. It is also called as a relative standard deviation. It is the ratio of standard deviation to the mean of the data set. So coefficient of variation for a population is a ratio of standard deviation with the mean. And if I want to find out in terms of percentage, you can write it the percentage multiply with the 100%. So coefficient of variation is standard deviation divided by mean value into 100%. So it will be calculated in terms of percentile. It is again same for population. It is again same for sample. Out of 10 application, 7 to 8 application will work on a population, 1 or 2 application will work on a sample. When we require a sample, suppose I have 50 lakh records, so I'm not going to find out the mean and median and mode for all that 50 lakh records. I'll just select some sample record, 100 record, 500 records, and I'll find out the terms, that is the range, variation, variance, then standard deviation, coefficient of variation. So these are the terms that I use to find out the coefficient of variation. Now this is one more example. Standard deviation का एक एग्जांपल है. इसमें थोड़ा मैं इसको इनलार्ज कर लेता हूँ, so you people can also see. Fine, I can present properly visible for all. So we have a two different type of chemicals. Their analyte is given, that is glucose is there in both the solution. The methods are different, that is the hexokinase and glucose oxidase. These two different methods are used to prepare the solution of this chemical. Standard value is given, sorry, standard deviation is given 4.8 and standard deviation of the second method is given 4.0. Main values are also different. Which method is more precise? Now we have standard deviation value and mean value. Now we have to decide which method is more appropriate to select. When we have two different methods available with us, we have to choose one. So in that case, we have to find out coefficient of variance. So coefficient of variance will give you a clear idea that which particular method we can use. So it may be possible that you will get the same answer. It may be possible that you will get a different answer in that case. It depends on the size of the data set. So in this case, the size of the data set is unknown, but standard deviation and mean value is known. So with the help of coefficient of variation, we can find out the answer. So coefficient of variation for the first method will calculate standard deviation divided by mean into 100. So standard deviation is 4.8 divided by mean value into 100. I'll get 0.04%. That is the coefficient of variation. For the second method also I calculate standard deviation divided by mean into 100. Again I'll get the same answer. So which method is more precise, that we need to select. But here unfortunately we'll get a same answer. So both method will give a same percentage answer. So it means that I can choose any one of the method out of this two method. So if I select a mean value 120, then also correct, and the standard deviation is 4.8. If I select standard deviation 4.0 and mean value is 100, then also I'll get the same answer. So both the methods are appropriate that we can use. So to check the preciseness of the data set, we can calculate standard deviation coefficient. So hope, I think it is clear to everyone. यहाँ तक समझ गया सबको?
Yes, sir.
3 नए टर्म हमने यहाँ पे डिस्कस की. पहला था वेरिएंस, उसके बाद स्टैंडर्ड डेविएशन, और तीसरा था कोएफिशिएंट ऑफ वेरिएशन. If I want to calculate all these 3 terms, mean is must, and that we have completed 3 terms. Now moving ahead, before that, आपका कुछ सेशन था क्या आज 1 बजे?
Yes, sir.
So it is compulsory to join for everyone. To join that, सब लोग करने वाले join?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So then we'll stop here, and then we'll discuss the remaining part in the next session. So three terms only discuss in this session. Right? So we'll stop here. You can leave the meeting and join that session.
Okay, sir.
Thank
I'll
you,
not
sir.
take the attendance of this session. We'll take the attendance in the next session.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.